first question is, why does the exact balance of power between the center and the state government vary from one federation to another? Explain two examples. So they've been asking that, of course, there's a division of power when we talk about federation. There's central government, there's state government, but the pattern has not been quite uniform across all the nations of the world, even if they follow federalist tendencies. Why is it the case? So that is the question. Please read the question carefully. Don't be in a hurry to start with the answer. You're going to lose marks if you do that. Don't rush directly to the answer. Just try to concentrate on what the question is asking for. And second part they're looking for is that you have to give two examples. Now, so the two examples is how federation is being established is going to depend. So there, though the exact balance, you're going to give a good introduction that though the, I would say, the exact balance of power between the central and the state government, yes, it varies from one federation to another because they have opted out for a different route in the coming together. It may be the holding together. So the federal concept that has been established varies from one nation to the another. So there are two basic divisions. The very first one is coming together of the federation and the second one is holding together of the federation. I'm going to give you a good example. You can sustain your friendship if both of your, like you and your friend, they probably come together to make a good alliance, to have each other for long. But however, your friendship is not going to sustain for long if you are, forced to get along, or there is some situation under which you guys have been asked to, maybe you asked to work on a project and you guys are not on good terms. So of course that's going to be, yes, you're coming together, but there's some compulsion associated with it, by which how I can define is like you're holding together the federation. Coming means you're voluntarily coming together, you're ready to share the power. So when I talk about political sphere, the coming together of federation, I'm going to explain the two examples that they've asked for. So the main aim when I talk about coming together is like small federations or maybe small states or small provinces. They come together to form a very strong union. They pool their own sovereignty so that they can have, though they retain their identity, but they want to have a very strong defense system, a very strong union. So there are countries that have been following this coming together of federation. It is, the three examples of the countries is USA, Switzerland and Australia, where the federal parts have come together on their own to have a very strong union. But when I talk about holding together a federation, it's that type of federation in which, the power has been divided between the central and the state government. But this is generally done in the case where central government tends to act more powerful. You've divided, you have decentralized the power to ensure that, yes, we follow the federal concept. For example, but yes, the power division is not equal, and the states at times do not have or cannot retain their identity. For example, in India, none of the state has the right to cede away or join, because they never joined Indian unions. All the states did not join Indian Union at their free will. So similarly, I would say they don't have the power to cede away from Indian Union. So what happens when I talk about the example is Indian, Spanish and Belgium federations. Here are some of the examples which you can quote when you talk about holding together of the federation. So you guys have clearly seen that, yes, I have talked about the examples. I have given the examples. I have explained the examples clearly in a defined pattern. I have not made a mixed veg out of it. I have clearly defined, and every point is very clear in the answer. So it's all about your presentation, how you're going to present the answer. So Moving forward on to the next question on what type of principle is Indian Union based. So we've just discussed, the same question has been asked in a different format. So describe the threefold distribution of legislative powers between the union government and the state government. So of course they are talking about the threefold distribution that we just discussed towards the very beginning of the class, that yes, there is some division, there is some distribution of power, and that's none other than the union list, state list and the concurrent list. So we know, yes, Indian Union is based, see, I'll tell you. So when the Constitutional Assembly was being formed, or they were defining the Indian Constitution, so there was a lot of fight going on whether India should retain its name as India or it should be called as Bharat. The other point of dispute was, what are we going to call India? Is it going to be a federation of states, or what else do you suggest? So our forefathers, thought very smartly. They were intelligent people, and they probably knew the gravity of the situation. So in the Constitution, they've never used the word federation. They always state over and over again that India, that is Bharat, is a union of states. So that is what clearly is mentioned right here. So it is basically a federal system, yet it has some of the features that are there in a unitary system. For example, I told you, at times the central government becomes really, really strong. So this sort of system that has partial federalism attached to it or associated with it is known as quasi-federal. So the power sharing is basically based on quasi-federal feature, in which you have three lists: union list, state list and the concurrent list. Union list, of course, is the very first important list that carries topics that are very important, to have a uniform policy. They are very important with respect to national importance, and every state has to follow the same guidelines when it comes to these union laws. So I've already made a disclaimer that in many books there are 97 subjects. However, now they've approximately reached 100 subjects. So in this case, the union list, the topics that are there, the subjects that are there, the exclusive power to make laws on those subjects is with the parliament. So you have to define the second point also, that these are the lists that need uniform policy. They are supposed to be implemented across the country, and you have to give examples also. For example, in this case, it's going to be defense, atomic energy, foreign affairs, railways, banking, posts and telegraph. These are the most important topics when we talk about the union list. Now let's jump onto the state list. So the next list is the state list that has, in some books they've given 66 subjects, but I told you the state has the area, demarcated area, the territory on which they can make laws. So as of now, the number of subjects has been reduced to 61. The 5 subjects have been shifted to the concurrent list, which now has 52 subjects. So the state legislature, the legislative assembly, the legislative council, in case there is, they can make laws on the subjects mentioned in the state list. Now, just for your additional information, I would like to point out here that, let's say, if we talk about the concurrent list, so in concurrent list, it's the third fold of the list. So concurrent has those subjects which come on, for example, marriage is there, trade unions are there, then you have adoption, succession laws, because all these laws can be made by the state and the central government. So in case both the governments have made a law, so of course, like I told you, India is a quasi-federal government, follows the pattern of a quasi-federal government. So the law made by the central government is going to prevail. So being an Indian, you should also know that in case the state law has been made, the state has made a law on a subject of the concurrent list with the prior approval of the president. Only in that case, only in that scenario, it's gonna, supersede the law made by the parliament, unless and until parliament makes another law to supersede the law made by the state list. If you've not understood, I repeat it again for you. That's not given in your textbook. It's just for the additional knowledge. That suppose a topic has been made, the central government and the state government have made a law on a topic of interest. In this case, of course, in normal circumstances, the central law is going to prevail. But there's one exception. If the state government has already taken the permission from the president, then the state law is going to prevail in place of the central law. But that is going to prevail only till the time the parliament does not come up with a very fresh law that is going to supersede the law made by the state government. That means for some time, yes, state law is going to make its imprint, it's going to survive unless and until parliament comes up with a new law. So these are the answers to the question that we just looked for, that what type of principle is Indian Union based on? Threefold distribution of legislative means law-making power between union and the state government. So we've explicitly defined and covered the entire summary of the chapter right here. Now, so like I told you, on concurrent list, both union and the state government can make laws, and whole Indian Federation or the federal system is an example of holding together. Yes, we've provided decentralization, but the more control is in the hands of the central government. Okay.